Just before we get started with today's episode, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody who listened to our first episode. We got so much love from everyone on Instagram, and also we asked you guys if there's any topics that you would like us to cover, and we got some amazing answers. And yeah, now we've got heaps of ideas to chat about, and we're really excited. So thank you everyone for listening, because we're just like
We're watching,
so we're just talking, and we love talking about this stuff. So if we can entertain you guys or help you out, then we're happy with that.
Yeah, so I figured out after the first one how to get everything online. So you can view on IGTV under The Film Room, or if you don't already follow Jessie, the_film_room. It's also on Spotify under The Film Room, the podcast. You may have to scroll a little bit to see us.
A little bit.
And it's also going to be on Jessie's YouTube channel as well, if you're a YouTuber. Today's episode, we're talking wedding planning.
Wedding planning 101.
101. Basically just our thoughts about woe to go. Either you haven't even set a date yet and you just got engaged. Congratulations if that's you.
Woo!
Very exciting. But yeah, if you haven't set a date yet, you'll get something out of this. If you have set a date or you're in the middle of planning and you're in the heat of battle, you'll get something out of it. And it probably, hopefully, even if you're just coming up to your wedding date very soon, that would be very exciting for you to have.
Yes.
The last however long it's been taking you to get these things organised or coming to fruition.
It is very exciting to finally get to the day. I know that, and many brides have shared this sentiment with me, that they would like, it's been so much planning and so much anticipation, they just want the day to come, and then they just want to go on their honeymoon.
I think everyone goes through that stage where they're like, can I just elope now?
Yeah, and I used to actually have like a fear that once I planned my wedding, what was I ever going to do? I would never be able to plan a wedding ever again. It would be the worst thing ever. And on our wedding day, I was like, never again. This is like, I don't ever want to plan that again. Even though I'm trying to plan an elaborate 10-year anniversary
vow renewal.
Wedding 2.0 anyway. But I know everything now, so it's up here. Anyway, and that's what we're chatting about. So
Sweet. All right. So we were going to start off with like, what's the very first thing you should do after getting engaged? First of all, celebrate, have your engagement party and all that kind of stuff. Yay. But in terms of the actual wedding, it's actually probably your budget. Like suss out what you're going to spend on this thing. Ask parents and relatives or whoever you think in your culture might be contributing to your wedding to find out if that's an option, because that's going to dictate pretty much everything that you then book from there on. If it's a small affair, if it's the most epic thing you've ever seen, the budget's really going to dictate pretty much everything.
And I feel like this is just coming to me, like your guest list or potential guest list is obviously going to factor in with your budget, because you might have 50 people, which you still have an incredible wedding, but obviously that's going to be cheaper than if you have 300
For sure.
guests. So number one, budget, tick that off. Work out what
cool.
it is.
Then you probably want to be working on your venue and date simultaneously. If you have a date in mind, that's fine. It might be an important date to you. But like, I know from our perspective, we won't accept a booking that doesn't have a venue booked in, because from our perspective, if you don't have a venue, then you don't actually have a date.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
The venue confirms the date, because they will tell you when they're available to hold your wedding.
Yeah. Well, so when we were looking for wedding venues, we went to a bunch of wineries here in the Adelaide Hills, and which is magnificent. And I was very shocked back then to learn that a Friday 2 years from now was the only available date that they could even start looking.
And it was very much, I think we were like, we'd be interested in getting married here. Like, you know, what have you got available?
Yeah.
And they got out their diary.
Turned about 20 pages at
And
the
it
same
was
time.
it was like December 5th. And we were like, oh, you know, like we're thinking like a February wedding. And they're like, that's the next date.
It's
available.
actually nuts. If you want a popular venue, you could go up to about 3 years in advance, I reckon. 2 to 3 years probably. We personally don't usually start taking bookings for our services until 18 months in advance. And that just either blew some people's minds because who's planning their wedding 18 months in advance, or some of you understand and know exactly how it is. So unfortunately we do get a lot of people coming 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks out, trying their luck, and some of them squidge in the spare dates. But
I think if we're freaking anyone out, I'd also want to point out that weekday weddings they're a thing now. Like, so if you can't get the weekend that you want or whatever, weekdays are a thing. People take the day off work. They're happy to come to your wedding. Like, anything's an option now. Anything goes.
The people most important to you are going to take a weekday off. Fridays have always been popular. Like, Fridays are normal.
We got married on a Friday.
We did. And yeah. So if you've got someone that can't come because it's a Wednesday or a Thursday...
Careful what you say.
They're probably a second tier guest, aren't they?
No. What if they can't get out of work?
Maybe they couldn't get out of work.
Anyway, so yeah, like, and one thing that I know we both talk about dates as well. People have a very special date that they want to get married on. They met that day 10 years ago. They got engaged that day a year ago, whatever. Luke's big thing is that your wedding day will trump all that. Your wedding day will be the new important date that you celebrate. It doesn't have to be a special date already.
Yeah, we find people trying to shoehorn their wedding day into their already special anniversary or their meeting date, the date they got engaged, the date they first kissed, whatever it is you define your special days as.
And it's great if it works out. Like, well, you're available on that date venue. Like, that's the date we met. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's so cute. We'll mention it in our ceremony. But I wouldn't base it on that because your wedding will that'll be the most important thing from now on. Well,
yeah. Your wedding anniversary is always going to be your wedding anniversary, and that will be the most special. So we've got a meeting date. Like, we met on a date. We decided we were boyfriend, girlfriend on a certain date. We got engaged on a different date. You know, so all the anniversaries slowly change. And then one day you get married and it's like, well, now that's the anniversary.
Yeah.
Like, they don't all have to line up.
We don't necessarily celebrate the day we got engaged. But your anniversary is wedding anniversary for sure.
Anyway, I feel like that was a very long explanation of how to find a venue.
So you've got your venue. It's determined your date. Now, what now? So...
Fangirl suppliers.
Yeah. So it's sort of like what are your priorities? Meaning, what's most important to you? Maybe you had a photographer that you've been following for ages, and
musos. Like, musos are all about the music at their wedding. They've got the artists that they want to have at their wedding play. You want to get onto the people that you've been fangirling over, or the people that you think you must have. At least contact them and find out when they're starting to take bookings.
Yeah.
Even if your wedding is 2 or 3 years away. At least ask the question to find out if they're taking bookings or how far in advance you need to be contacting them. Because they will go. If you're fangirling over them, other people probably are too. Some
people who don't have a date, so we've said we don't necessarily take bookings a certain, however far out, too far out, or if you don't have a date locked in or a venue, we don't take a booking because how can you book a date if you don't know what it is? But we do get people that are like, what's your availability? January to March 2023. And just because they're trying to work booking even their date around you, which is quite flattering. But those are those fangirly or fanboy-y.
I think it's always
fangirling.
fangirling.
Yeah, I know. No matter what. Yeah, they're those people. So think of who you really, really want. See if they're available. Lock them in if you can. May as well. And then still on the like priority train is then what's most important to you. And you might not have one person that you want to make your cake, but you want the most incredible cake ever. So start looking into it, get that, person booked in, whatever.
Yeah.
Example.
And then, obviously, filter through your own less important to you suppliers as you get closer to the wedding. You probably want to contact at least a few of every kind of supplier to find out, again, how far in advance they should be looking at booking. We've got people on like friends who are getting married soon on a very popular November date, struggling to find a makeup artist.
And not that it was left last minute either.
Heaps of people getting married that day.
Just, yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, so I feel like if someone you're inquiring with is taking bookings, it's never too soon to book them. Like, don't sit on it, especially if they're important to you. But I mean, you could get to the point where suddenly every videographer is booked out, and then you go, oh well, crap, I didn't like book any of those 3 people that told me they were available a year ago. We don't want that for you. We want you to have your magical, amazing day with no stress.
For sure. I want to talk traditions.
Ooh, okay.
And whether or not people should adhere to them or not.
Oh, okay. As in just your regular wedding.
It's got to be like one of my massive pet peeves. Like, your wedding can be literally anything you want it to be. The compulsory things that you have to do during the day are 3 sentences or 4 sentences or something. Ask your celebrant, they'll know exactly how many. But, there's not really a lot that's compulsory on the day. Every wedding day is your perception of your personality, the party you want to throw, the celebration you want to have with your family and friends. And it can be all about you and the way you design it. You do not have to do anything that anybody else did or didn't do before you. And I think there's so many like Facebook groups and chats and things where people ask, should I do this traditional thing? If you know why that is an important tradition, or you know what that tradition means, by all means do it.
Or if you just want to do it.
If you want to do it, do it. Of course you can. If you've seen it in, most of the stuff that we do at weddings because we've seen it happen in a movie.
Yes.
The only reason that people wear white wedding dresses is because Queen Victoria wore a white wedding dress. Oh. It became like a cultural norm. I think.
Is that true?
I'm pretty sure. I'm quite certain.
I feel like I've read
because,
that as well.
Prior to this particular wedding that was very popular, white was too expensive, I think.
Also, just because I'm thinking of it, I'm so interested in the history of traditions because they're weird and bizarre and kind of gross. And it's just funny to me that we all have bridesmaids and they've got something to do with evil spirits. It's keeping away from the bride, and it's so... No, it is. And also holding flowers, the bride hold flowers, because back in the day you didn't have baths. So you had to smell good. and I just find it so interesting. So if someone was like, I'm not having flowers, you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, as if you don't have flowers. It's like, I've showered today.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous.
It's interesting as well because I find like that there's a lot of influence that comes down from parents.
Yes.
And a lot of the time when we're co-planning with parents, they sometimes haven't planned a wedding or been in a wedding or to a wedding
since their own
couple of decades or sometimes since their own. And so, they're working off what they think is appropriate. They're not on Instagram. They're not on Facebook. Trust yourself. You know what's in and stylish and what you want to do. Everything is allowed, and you can pretty much can everything as well and have, a completely left field wedding if you like, and it's still quite appropriate.
Yeah. And also don't stress too much about guest expectations, because when it comes down to it, your guests are happy for you, happy to be there, thrilled to be invited.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if they've got a drink and a nice atmosphere and a bit
Free
of good
meal.
food,
Yeah.
free food, they are very, very, very happy. They don't need to be constantly entertained or like.
That is when we get a lot, isn't it? Yeah, well, we get a lot of people that are like, well, what are my guests going to do if, they're left to talk to each other? It's like, we go out to dinner with friends and family all the time and talk for hours.
Thank goodness we're not interrupted by speeches.
As great as some speeches are. From a guest point of view, I want to continue my conversation, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do love listening to a good speech. But yeah, short, sharp and shiny.
But like bare minimum
Heartfelt.
is more than enough.
Yeah.
For your, and I'm talking like sort of traditional things. Like we do definitely believe you have to have enough food. Very important.
Yeah.
But yeah, your guests will be so happy to be there for you. We went to a really amazing wedding where it was just a party where there was lots of champagne and lots of pizza, and it was so much fun.
Is this one where I ate too much pizza?
No, this was in Queensland.
Oh yeah.
And there was a candy bar, and it was just really casual, but it was like so much fun. And then we've been to stunning, elaborate sit-down dinners, and you love them too. Like, guests really just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm. Might chat about cocktail or sit down.
Okay, so cocktail versus sit down. Both amazing. We've shot many of both. We have, it's your personal preference for sure. And again, your guests don't care.
No. I understand the reason for both. I have my preference, which I'll explain in a minute. Mm-hmm. But please know that I do love both. I understand why you definitely want a sit-down wedding for the fancy, elegant dinner meal, table settings, looks
stunning.
Incredible. And for cocktail wedding, you get a slightly more casual but free-flowing event. My vote goes to cocktail. Our wedding was cocktail. And I just think my theory behind it is because, your guests at a sit-down wedding, they don't necessarily want to talk to the person that they get seated next to. And you'll know how hard it is to actually arrange a seating chart when you get started. Mm-hmm. They will get up out of their seat and they'll go and they'll talk to their best mate or their uncle or whoever is floating around.
Or the bridal table.
They'll stand off in the corner, and they'll congregate in groups. It's just the way that it happens. I find that sit-down weddings, the actual tables wind up being like placeholders, like jacket holders. That's where you leave your purse because that's my spot. And then people sort of leave it. So it can eventually start looking a bit messy. And I find when the speeches are ready to start or meals are being served, the guests are getting dragged away from these conversations.
They have to be told.
Yeah.
Go and sit down. Your dinner's there.
Go back to your assigned seat and eat or sit and listen, please.
Yeah.
At which point, whenever they finish their meal or the speech is finished, up they get and they go off and talk to whoever they want again. Like, people want to be free flowing.
Yeah.
In that environment. So that's why my vote goes to cocktail.
We also, for our wedding, we didn't want to sit down as well because we didn't like the idea of the bridal table sort of seated off separately. And
I get the fishbowl
watching
effect.
The wedding. But we've seen quite a few weddings where the couple, the whole bridal party, sit in on long tables with the guests and stuff, and it's a bit more social,
cool.
which is a really cool way to do it. We feel like people sometimes, if you go, you're going to have sit down or a cocktail wedding, people assume a cocktail wedding is cheaper, and it probably is for lots of reasons. You're not hiring napkins and chairs for everyone and all that, menus and everything. But some people go, oh no, it's cheaper because they like assume you don't get enough food.
I think people traditionally who have chosen cocktail have done it so they could do it on the cheap.
Yeah.
And
now
because
people
of the
think
way
that
that
is
you
how it is.
pick the cocktail menu,
Yeah.
they hold back on spending enough, and people subsequently don't get fed.
Yeah, and they go, well, I ate no food at my
Enough
friend's
food.
cocktail wedding, so
Yeah.
ours is going to be sit down, 3-course.
I remember that wedding that I didn't eat, rah.
And cocktail weddings are not spring rolls anymore, people.
There's some good.
There was a pork belly going around at our wedding, which people still talk about.
We just went to Jessie's cousin's
wife's 50th.
cousin's wife's 50th, and there were, I don't even know the relation. There were relations there who were talking to us about the pork belly that they ate at our wedding 5 years ago. And, you know, like, you can get some decent food from some of these caterers that are going around. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's just it's not how you might imagine. So if that's a reason why you're like, I don't want to have a cocktail, seriously consider it, because there are caterers doing amazing stuff.
Yeah, I think you do have to accept that the wedding's going to come down a notch in formality.
Which is great if you don't want it to be that formal.
But like beautiful, free flowing canapé dinner, you know, garden party style is awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I was going to go on about sit down as much as I have now about cocktail, but like I think sit down speaks for itself. Like we said before, it's mega romantic. You get that epic sort of sea of people all sitting, sharing a meal together. Super special.
It looks good.
If you can battle a seating chart.
In shots. Yeah. We'll delve into more details of that. I was just thinking about choose where you sit or have a seating chart. But I think we're going to do a wedding about
a podcast?
A podcast. Delving more deeper into those details because I'm interested.
Yeah. Things that matter. What matters?
So we're talking on the
wedding
the day that I guess you planned before.
Like if you like key things on a day that matter.
So
we've said good food.
We've covered that food and bevies definitely
I think live
matter.
music can make a massive difference.
Yeah. So whilst you can definitely have a great wedding without live music, or even I say just a DJ. Obviously DJs are amazing. Having live music, even just a live singer, acoustic singer, a duo.
Like the ceremony and canapes and stuff. Like just add something.
The level is like up. My sister threw an awesome wedding in her backyard. It was massive. And she was umming and ahhing about live music. And I remember telling her it just steps it up from a dinner in your backyard to a wedding. Like it just sort of, I don't know, it just elevates it. Like the atmosphere is something else. And I think it's because people don't experience that very often.
No, yeah.
Yeah, unless you're like actively going to a pub and
true.
to see a band or to see a singer or whatever. I feel like it's nice when you've planned a wedding, you've planned a beautiful space for your guests to come into and experience something that they don't experience all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, I don't know if we said it in the last one. No, we didn't. We had him and her who are now just epic. Our wedding was the first wedding they sang at, and it was just stunning. Like I got sang down the aisle. It was magical. And then they performed like all through canapes, and people were like, I think then and there, people were like, who are these guys?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were. They blew up from there.
Yeah, they have blown up. I also don't think you need to get too hung up on all the extra things that you can have at a wedding that are really fun, nice to haves. I'm talking photo booths, can't really think of another example than a photo booth.
I think photo booths are cool. I actually think they've become like a bit more of a standard. Like, I think it's just something that people expect to be there. Like, I don't think they miss it if it's not. But they've become much more commonplace.
If something, using photo booth as an example, if it's there, people love it. If it's not there,
no one's missing it.
No one's left a wedding gone, where was the photo booth? I can't believe there was no photo booth. Yeah. I didn't get one photo of me and my best friend. Yes, you did. You used your phone. You have
800 on your on your phone.
So no one and it almost goes for anything. Like, we've been to weddings where there's been an ice cream cart and it's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, line out the door.
Or a coffee cart. And it's like,
ice cream is the shit.
This is amazing. But you go to a wedding without it and no one's like, could have gone on ice cream. Yeah. Like they're just not. They're usually so happy with whatever you do have that and again, we've seen on like Facebook chats and stuff, it really just is up to you, because some people go, should I have a photo booth or not? And you'll get the people who go, we didn't have one, it was fine. And you get the people who go, we had one, the guests loved it.
Yeah.
Both of those answers are fine.
Yeah.
So it's up to you, but I wouldn't, you don't need to stress so much about those things from your guest point of view. It's just what you want and what you want to
What sort of experience, what sort of party do you want to have?
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't have to go into the nitty gritty. And I find, like, if there's a really long lead time, people start to really overthink their wedding. So, like, if you got everything, all the big stuff organised, all the sort of 15 key suppliers, I find, you know, if there's another 9 months left for the wedding, people are going, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? Oh, that's only a couple $100 to get that. That's a couple $100. That's, that's $50.
Look, the week before your wedding, suddenly everything goes, we were buying dry ice for a wedding.
There was so many things.
Not for a first dance, it was for ice cream.
I don't even remember what I was doing.
Luke's like, someone's making a sign for us. This is like the week of, I'm going to drive out north to go and pick it up. And it was just like, oh, okay. Like, suddenly all these things are happening.
This was like back in sort of, wooden sign, white decal time.
Back in the day.
We didn't even know. Had never seen it before. I loved it. And I wanted one, and I got one within a week, which was crazy town. So...
is there anything that irks you about...
That irks me? Nothing really irks me.
Well, no, because I know there is something. Parental input, where again...
yes. Who to invite.
Parents are fabulous, but they might have some input.
I highly dislike when there are lots of guests who the couple... don't know present at the wedding. And I understand that there are certain cultures where this is very important, and family is very important, and pleasing parents and grandparents is very important.
And the couple might not care. They might be like, yeah, it's fine. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And if you don't care, that's fine. But probably the 90% excuse that I hear is, I want... So this is like, say, mother and father talking to the couple. Well, I want my friend or, obscure relative to come, and you don't want them to. And they say, I'm going to pay for the food. So
I'm paying for them.
It's my decision. So, it's out of your hands now because I'm paying for them. And it confuses me because why is it about the money and the expense of having them there? And why isn't it about just having who you want present to witness the most personal day of your life?
Yeah.
It's not about whether or not I spend $50, $60, $100 a head on that person. It's about me not wanting them present at my most special day with my most favorite people.
I find it so bizarre to also be the person. Imagine if we're invited to a wedding for a couple we've never met.
In our culture, I think that's a massive faux pas.
That is weird, yeah.
I actually felt weird a little bit when we went to a wedding years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't know the couple. I'd never met them. Literally, hi, congratulations, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
On the day.
You were a +1.
I was a +1. Very awkward for me. You know,
Sorry.
I think people that haven't, like, they don't, you know, it is a very intimate day. You're watching, you know, the most special day of people's
very
lives.
personal. Like,
and it's like, why am I here? The only, you know, like, I'm just here to keep, you know, you comfortable as the plus one.
Yeah.
And
look, we understand it is very hard. Like, we've chatted with couples who have struggled with this, and it is just hard, and it's like highly emotional, and you don't want to get into fights with your parents, and it's really, really difficult. We wish it weren't so difficult.
I understand the difficulty. Yeah. I understand. I empathize. It's just the way that it has to be, I guess. I wish it wasn't.
And honestly, and my main thing that irks me would just be stressing about details that you don't necessarily think are important, but you think other people think it's important, and you just need to calm down. And
I think so many people are just excited for your wedding as well. You know, they'll be researching for you or sending you things, and I don't think anyone actually expects you to do anything. Yeah. It's just, this would be cool, or what are you doing for this or that or everything else? And I think it's perfectly okay just to say, we're not doing that, or that would be cool, or, you know, but not for us. Yeah. Like, I think people get hung up on, everyone expects the world of me. And they don't. And
if you get the feeling that they do, it's like, it is your wedding. Like, that person will have the wedding that they want, and you will go and watch them get married on a beach in Gale Force Winds or whatever, you know, like, you'll do that for them. So they'll come to your cocktail wedding, even though they think they're not going to get fed, like, and they will.
That would be cool, Kimmy. Love to see that when you get married.
Yeah. It's like, well, I look forward to you doing that at your wedding.
So good.
Just do what is important to you, because if people have done things they didn't want to do in the past, they've had a kind of wedding they didn't want, and they've regretted things about it. And I just think it's sad. So to the best of your abilities, do exactly what you want to do, because it is very important. The most important, biggest day of your life or whatever. And like, it's amazing. It definitely gets better after, but like, yeah, you do you, people, and
make it your
you
own.
have fun. Yeah.
Love that.
So I'm hoping that this still feels like very early planning stages. Like, if you've made some notes, good.
Really, like, once you get your favorite vendors, and you know, like, once you've got pretty much everything sorted, you're good. Really, there's not much left now to do except sort out that timeline. Yeah.
So there are finer details, obviously, closer to the date.
Keep in touch with all your suppliers through the year. Just touch base. Especially if you're hiring any, like, hobbyists, part-time people, make sure they're still around, make sure they're still doing your thing, make sure you're still on the books. Yeah. Our venue changed managers, and
which, I mean, I
originally put
100% agree with what?
Just saying.
What'd you say?
Well, we booked with our venue and the old staff.
Oh my gosh. If there is a changeover of management between booking your venue and rolling up to your venue with your stylist and your florist to discuss final details and finding out they don't know who you are. It's funny because, touch base with them and be like, hey, is this still a go? Because I'm on the other end of it, and people are like, hey, like, you still good to shoot our wedding? And I'm like, yeah, obviously. But then it's like, no, I see the other side of it.
Us, like, we're always on Instagram. We're always posting stuff to Instagram. If you're on Instagram and you're following us, you know we're around. You know what we're doing almost on a daily. Yeah. So, but yeah, if you're not on Instagram, then you may not see as much. Hopefully the podcast will be another port of call so you can see what's going on. We're still alive and we're still around. So, but yeah, do a check-in every now and then. I didn't mean for this to be such a huge point, but it's not so, like, pertinent.
Don't obsess over it. Just make sure.
As photographer, I usually like to have a hand in helping out with a timeline. I find that if people are left to their own devices to write their own timeline, a lot of the time we say time again, Luke.
Say it one more time.
I find that if you're left on your own to write a timeline, it might not necessarily flow very well because, travel time is a factor and leaving enough padding time is a factor. Like, you just need to make sure you've got extra time to do everything.
Without going too much into things that are sort of closer to the day, like more in the lead up of the day. Yeah, if you're still in planning stages.
Got one more important thing that I want to talk about. It just popped into my head. We have to reverse. MCs. It has only just come to my attention in the last couple of years how much difference a professional MC can make over a friend MC.
Yes.
Pretty much so we had a friend MC. She was awesome. And you can get really good MCs who are family members and friends. I think people put too much assumption on that it is just a few announcements though, because it really is a much bigger job than that.
It's being in charge of the night and managing the timeline of...
Yeah. In the absence of an actual coordinator,
really the whole event.
They will make sure your wedding or your reception runs properly.
Yeah.
When you've paid for your videographer to record your speeches, they will make sure the videographer is present and ready to go, as well as liaise with the kitchen staff, liaise with the venue, liaise with the DJ, photographer, videographer, and whoever else is there, and they'll put all the players in place and make sure things are ready to go before they make their announcements. And they are so good at it if they're a good one.
Yeah.
At making the announcements and keeping people enthused. We have literally been to weddings where the friends have, like the friend who's an MC, they get nervous, they get wasted. They want to rush things. They don't communicate sometimes. Again, I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush because there's been some awesome ones, really great people who are probably born for it. But yeah, when we find out that the friend is going to be the MC, we're a little bit nervous sometimes. When it all works out, it's great, but we are a little bit nervous because we have to keep them under control.
It is always a bit of a stress point when you find out that a guest is an MC, and not that it's always going to go downhill, but it's a stress point because that person, you assume they've never done it before.
They need to be managed and watched.
And then we feel a responsibility to organize them so that they can run the wedding. I feel like the perceived pros and cons, especially of hiring a professional MC, is that they don't know us, we don't know them. You know, like they're just a stranger coming in and running things. We want a friend to do it who knows us. But it's funny because did you just hire friends to do everything else to run and plan your wedding because they're not strangers? Like, I don't know. I just think
it's interesting because even though you've got a friend who you know and who is personal, we've been in speeches where the friend has gone, okay, thanks, Jessie. That was Jessie, everybody. And now it's Uncle Dave. Dave's going to come up. Yeah, okay. Here you go, Dave.
You're saying they're nervous?
I can't paint everyone with the same brush. I'm just saying a professional MC knows how to run the night and get everyone involved regardless of whether they know them or not. And friends are a wild card. You can get the best larrikin guy who's hilarious, who everyone knows and who knows you, and it can be the best ever. No. I'm saying
it's the best ever.
No, I'm saying it can be good.
Oh, okay.
It can be awesome. But there are awesome friend MCs. I'm just saying it's a wild card more of the time than it is awesome.
And I think one thing you have to consider if you're like, nope, our friend is awesome, he's going to do the best job ever, you have to be like, okay, well, it's not a good idea for this person to go like full guest until it's all done.
Yeah.
Because they need to be on all over the timeline, all over the schedule. They need to be liaising with the venue and the flippin' chef, like the food service and everything. Like, it's not...
They can't just get up whenever they want to make an announcement.
And yet they do,
Yeah.
which is one of the cons.
This is why I'm saying it's more of a wild card.
Yes. And again, that is very stressful for all involved. Even like musicians. I've seen musicians have no idea what's going on because it's been said a few times at weddings, the MC's gone rogue because he is just doing his own thing. Sorry, I'm putting bad rap on guys. Or maybe she's gone rogue. I don't know. But then, like, if you hire a professional, you've literally handed over all the management of the whole night to someone whose job it is to take care of everyone all night. And all your guests just get to sit or whatever, or stand and drink and enjoy and like just get taken on the ride, and it's no one's responsibility. And it also makes our job so much easier because
I'm always saying that like a reception run sheet, you can have a timeline from the reception start onwards to the end of the night. I reckon I've seen 2 in 8 years run to that time, like to a T.
Yeah.
I always just class it as an order of events. This will then happen, then that, and we'll be at a reception every time. Jessie will be like, "What's next?" And I'll be like, "Well, the first dance was supposed to be an hour ago." Like, when you're talking about throwing out half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, that we are often the people to be negotiating about what is going to happen next and when. And
I will say that this happens when there's a professional MC as well. So it's like the timeline's its own beast, really, because really even if you've got professionals running the show, something will happen, the kitchen will run behind or whatever.
So we have to take it apart and put it all back together again on the fly.
So imagine taking it apart, putting it back together, and then telling a guest who's 20 beers in that
this is the new plan.
This is the new
and then they look at their sheet that they got 3 weeks ago from you guys, and it's like, no, that's not what this says.
We're definitely going to talk more about timelines and on the day stuff for sure, because I think we can't stop talking about it.
Now? I'm asking. Now?
Now we're going to stop talking about it. As in, no, not now.
In a different episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like a whole, that's like your wedding, you've got your dress and everything's ready to go. But then you've got to nut out the finer details.
Got a whole timeline science.
Yes. So I feel like we can wrap up this there. I hope we've given you just a little bit of insight on where to start. Again, just want to point out that I do think a celebrant, the person who actually marries you, is a top of the list priority, like more important than a photographer, unless you've been fangirling over someone for 10 years and you need to get them in on the day, but you need a celebrant. There are some absolutely insane celebrants going around SA. The last few years, we've just been blown away with how they do their job. Like, it's changed. Like, they're incredible now.
There are some massively, excellently engaging celebrants who not interact because they're not like physically there, but they, engage the guests, and it's an experience rather than a show.
Yeah. And I've filmed ceremonies where I've wanted to or have gone up to the celebrant after and just been like, that was like the best. Like, you ran that ceremony better than I've ever seen anyone else do. And I've also been running around taking different shots and hearing guests say to each other, sort of during the ceremony or like in the gaps or whatever, like, oh, she's fabulous.
Yeah.
Like,
so cool.
like if guests are complimenting your celebrant, you have an incredible celebrant, because the celebrant really could just stroll in, say like 2 sentences, you say 2 sentences and they leave. Like, you know, but for someone to have your audience raving during, like, they're the kinds of people that we have around, and it's just worth looking into because there are some incredible ones.
Yeah.
In SA.
I think that people sometimes think that a celebrant is just like, oh, it's just something that I have to have. And, you know, and
by the way, again, if it's not a priority, then just get the celebrant who's going to do the bare minimum. But I'm saying you don't have to. Like, your ceremony can be
awesome,
more than a like slapdash thing where you just want to get to the party. Like, it can be like fun and engaging, and there's cheering and laughing, and I think it's just it's really good to kick off the event. So yeah, definitely look into it, because also you don't want to be closer to your wedding day and be like, hey guys, I need a celebrant, because you can't really do it without a celebrant.
Yeah.
You could get a cake last minute.
Yeah.
Maybe. Depends. But yeah, I think put that at the top of the priority list. But yeah, I think that's pretty good.
That's
for this
pretty
one.
Good, I think. Yeah. I have always wanted to say these words. If you're on YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yes, please do, because we're going to keep doing these, and we hope they're helpful or entertaining.
And if you get a comment section, hit us up with what you want to know. Are you planning your wedding? Are you? Is there things you wish you knew when you were planning your wedding? Are there things that opinions that you'd like to?
Any regrets?
Yeah, throw them our way. Hit us up with a comment. Shoot us a DM. Text us if you're a friend. If you got our phone number, email us.
Call us if you're Andrea.
Yeah. But yeah, tell it, like, guys, like this. So the next few podcasts are going to be very much governed by the suggestions that we got from number 1. So yeah, let us know what you want to hear about, and we will chat about it. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We will. So this has been Luke and Jessie. The Film Room, the podcast.
The Film Room, the podcast. Luke John Photography and the Film Room.
Yep.
And we're on Spotify, Instagram TV, and at the moment, YouTube.
Yeah.
Boom. Love that.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye now.
Bye.